Hi, this is Nikki and Claire from the Growing Institute again. We've been doing our COVID walks this week. We're having a little bit of a giggle because we got a little bit confused about how to press record this week. So hopefully our internet skills are improving. Climbers is what we're doing. There's a lot flowering at the moment, though I did notice when I was walking through the village that actually not a huge variety. Lots of roses growing over doors, and obviously there's hundreds of thousands of them. But yeah, it's a select few at the minute, isn't it? I think really.
Yeah. I looked at the roses, and it was a bit too stalkerish because just like zooming in with my phone right really close to their windows and doors. So that's why we don't have any roses. Although I have been smelling some other roses that have been hanging over walls and things, but they've not been climbing. So the ones that have been kind of acceptable to take photographs of, I have been.
Had much the same problem. Yeah, it was a little bit weird. I've started going out earlier and earlier in the morning though, so that my strange photography of people's front gardens doesn't get me arrested.
Yeah. I've been going out a little bit later because I think I've just been hanging around with Andrew a bit more, and I've been losing a bit of the light. So I've had other opportunities to take things, and then not necessarily getting back there during the day because obviously I've been working. So it's a bit of a mishmash. But one of the things that's been prevalent still is scent.
Yeah.
When the weather's been really warm, I've just been kind of like sniffing around the place, working out where to go. So that's been it's been
That's
interesting.
the chip shop then.
Say that again.
The chip shop. I can smell the chips.
I can.
Anyway, moving on before we
go
off into realms of other.
So let's go. So we have been having a giggle about this. No, that's honeysuckle.
We can't say. Obviously, this is an early flowering honeysuckle, but neither of us can say periclymenum. I think that sounds like childbirth, some sort of snippy issue.
Yeah, and it's a bit perimenopausal.
Yeah, so
it's been a great, really interesting plant because that looks fantastic, gorgeous, even coverage, hanging over the side of their fence on a path that is a bit of waste ground, doing what honeysuckle does best, which is not flowering anywhere near you. It likes to scramble up through plants. So this hasn't got a tree to climb up through and scramble through, so it's just doubling up over itself.
And it would be interesting to see if the garden on the other side has got that massive flower, or whether actually that's probably just a lot of brown stems.
Yes,
and
I have had a little bit of a poke around, and this is definitely the best view that hardly anyone's seeing, so I'm showing it to the world.
And great for insects, honeysuckle, they love it.
Absolutely fantastic. And what a delight taking photos. So just underneath that's full of nettles and brambles, so it's on a path, but the scent was phenomenal. But also, as I'm getting up close, I love looking at this, the peachiness and the pinkiness.
Yeah, you can pink, peach, white, sort of a salmony colour as well, isn't there? It's
really, really quite delightful, but really heavily scented. And the perfoliate leaves, so it looks like the stem is being perforating those leaves. It isn't, but it's just up there either side. So very, very beautiful to look at close up. And even if you've got a really kind of scraggly old one that's going all the way through the trees, you will recognise the scent. It's quite old-fashioned, very lovely.
Yeah, so there are honeysuckles that flower later on in the year, but we'll look at them when they're actually flowering, and you'll be able to see maybe we'll compare the leaf differences between like Lonicera japonica, Lonicera henryi, and Lonicera childbirth.
And also Lonicera is actually quite one of my favourite families, because you also have Lonicera nitida, Lonicera pileata, which are also really brilliant. They're shrubs, so it's a big family, and
And
it's
for
all good for
winter
wildlife.
as well, Lonicera purpusei.
Oh, fantastic for bumblebees.
Again, shrubby honeysuckles, I suppose, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's a massive genus, and
yeah.
not just climbers. There's shrubs as well.
So I've started to track now how the plants develop. So I'm going to be interested to see what this looks like in winter.
Yes.
So, you know, build up
How you
our,
can identify it in winter actually as well.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see. So
Right,
next
what's the
on the
next one?
list.
Oh yes, this is me, Hydrangea petiolaris. So it's not out yet, and I think we'll maybe show a picture next week of what it is fully out. But you can see on the right hand side the little tiny flowers white flowers just starting to come out.
Yeah.
And I have got. I've lost it. I've only got the leaf. But those plates of flowers, the outside ones open first, and then they all start to open, and you get these sort of plates of flowers that sort of hang almost flat to the wall, and it looks amazing. And the leaf is beautiful. But I think in the winter, and I have got a piece here. I mean, it's just
and you
stem,
can just
obviously.
see it just down there as well.
Yeah, they have these really reddish brown stems that stand out against whatever they're climbing up, and look fantastic. And they have these fat buds as well that sit on them. So even though it's not evergreen, for winter interest, it's got a lot going for it.
It has. It reminds me, it's one of those kind of old money feels. I mean, when I see this on a house, it's got kind of a traditional. It's got a lot of character to it.
Yeah, there's a house in the village that has got it's got I think it's owned by the local public school. That's how feudal we still are here. And it's got a wisteria and a hydrangea petiolaris going up. It's an old house, sort of 4 or 5 years old. It looks fantastic, the mix of the two. And that's the flower. I have no idea where the camera is. That's my problem. Some sort of lesson.
Yeah, no, that's good.
Yeah. So you've got these tiny buds, but within the next couple of weeks, they'll all be open, and it's a really nice plant that I've just dropped on the floor.
It'd be nice to do kind of some follow-ups of how these things, how these plants develop and change.
And this one, it just sticks to the wall. So after the initial training, it just does it itself. You don't need to be putting wires up or anything. It sticks by. I don't know if you can see. Can you see the little sort of little point bits on the stem?
Yeah.
So they're basically adventitious aerial roots. They just stick to the wall. It makes it quite easy to propagate as well.
And they've managed this one, your one, very well. They've got a nice straight edge at the top. You can just see it kind of creeping up and where it may have been in the past.
Yeah.
They're managing it very well. Really good for wildlife, good for nesting birds. I think it's a very classy plant. Understated, classy.
That will just be one plant. I often see it when people are with new houses and they plant 4 or 5 of them on a wall this size. You only need one.
Yeah.
Because if you plant 4 or 5, 3 of them will die from the competition. One won't thrive, so you'll have one bit of manky one. Just think about how big they actually eventually get.
You need a lot of patience.
Yeah, but once they get going, they're quite speedy, aren't they?
Yes,
I mean, that one that I was looking at clearly this year has put on 10 centimetres already.
Yeah.
So it's once it's got going, it does the job.
Very, very, very lovely plant. Understated, underrated, I think.
Yeah, much underrated. But you can recognise it as a hydrangea, I think, once the flowers come out, can't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a climber.
Lovely stuff.
Right.
Next on the list.
Next.
So this has been really interesting. So thinking about scent, so this is one of mine.
Of
South
course,
London.
it wouldn't grow down here, my girl, would it?
No, so I took a photograph of this and I sent this to Nikki, and she said, "What's this?" And I said, "There's another jasmine. Then it's chaclospermum, which is, that's another story." And I said, "It's a jasmine, and which one?" I said, "I don't know. It's like one that you buy at the market at Christmas and then you kick out and it's dead." But this one there's a lot of them around here where people have obviously just carried on growing them, and the scent is amazing.
It is an amazing scented jasmine polyanthum, and it's normally sold as a house plant or conservatory plant because it's not hardy. Realistically, hardiness rating down to about 1 degree, so not even freezing. So what's quite strange is how enormous that one is. It's clearly been there years, but it really demonstrates the difference in climate in that urban area. I genuinely, even though I live quite close to the south coast, it's one of the milder areas of the country, I just wouldn't survive even 30 miles south of you. But because it's a rural environment, that is amazing to see that in London.
So we've been talking a lot about microclimate, and we may be doing something else about it, talk more about the other plants that I've found. But as I've been walking past walls, and some tall walls above head height, and I've had a t-shirt on, the latent heat from the buildings, like I've been literally kind of like a heat detector doing this around walls, because actually I'm noticing how hot walls are, and that's what's happening here. You have the latent heat from the building that's keeping this microclimate alive. This is a south-facing house, and it's incredibly successful, and there's lots around Dulwich and lots around in front gardens. I mean, lots.
But also, maybe our climate is getting warmer, and maybe I was wondering whether we're a little bit more risk averse in where I'm living, because we perceive we live in the country. Well, we don't perceive we live in the country, I suppose we do, but perceive that it's still much colder than it actually is. I don't know. So I am going to buy one of those at Christmas this year, and I am going to see, because actually I've had normal zonal geraniums go through the winter, so I reckon I could get that to grow on our west facing patio. And I would be interested to see whether actually these sort of things, people in in that London environment, that's urban environment, are trying things out. The risk isn't, they're not worried about the risks, they're just like, oh, let's give it a go, and it's working. Whereas we're thinking, oh no, it will be far too cold, and maybe it just won't be.
I mean, I've been showing you all sorts of, we've been pinging each other stuff all week. All those arbutelons, all sorts of bits and pieces.
You've got a Butelon Kentish bell already flowering, the size of a small tree. Again, something that really would be perceived as a conservatory plant. Certainly wouldn't put it out here.
And I know it's been there for 15 years, because that's how long I've lived here. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah. Yes, I think we are a little bit too risk averse down here. I think we need to catch up with you townies.
Right, let's go. So Parthenocissus tricuspidata, and really it'd be great if we also had another slide that showed it covering a house, and maybe when in autumn we'll do a bit more autumn colour stuff. So Parthenocissus tricuspidata, one and only time I'm going to say it, Boston ivy. Yeah, I'm looking at my RHS list. I don't care about that Latin name because I'll never remember it again. That common name. But this was taken on the same wall on the 8th of April, and it's opened up in a month, and it's developed into those lovely glossy green leaves. Now, I associate Parthenocissus as having great autumn colour. I'm not necessarily looking at spring colour, the leaf colour, and this is how much it's changed and developed just in a month, and how big they've got. So from these lovely reddy tinged colours to this bright green.
That's really lovely, sort of demonstrating that in 1 month, the difference in that plant is amazing, isn't it? That you've gone from those just little furled reds and dark sort of winey colour. Did I say wine? I did.
Yeah.
And that
on your trip to the off licence, what did you see?
Oh, yes, on my trip to the off licence.
But so, Nikki, you were talking about the adventitious roots on the Hydrangea petiolaris, and we've got the little suckers here on the Parthenocissus, these little kind of like lizard suckers on there.
Oh, that's, yeah.
And that's how it clings to the wall. So you might need to have a bit of formative training, one wire or something to try to tie it in.
Wires. Yeah.
And then it'll sort itself out and arrange itself in a way to maximise the sun, and the leaves will spread themselves out evenly. But I thought that was great. The same walk can be really, really interesting.
And changes from month to month. And it goes back, we've got such richness in our gardens, front gardens alone, that, we're all missing out on going to see places, but people's front gardens can give us so many ideas, can't they?
Yeah. And there is something really, going back to this idea of mindfulness, looking at the detail. I know people do wonder why I'm constantly taking pictures of this brick wall. But now you know why, or some people know. It's very interesting to me.
It's very hot in here, sorry.
Yeah, God, I know. I'm like that Lonicera.
Yeah.
Let's go. Hedera helix.
Right. This, I think, lots of people hate ivy. And actually it comes in it's useful for lots of different things, from ground cover to covering walls, or and growing up trees is something that Hedera helix. There's lots of different cultivars, and there's other much larger leaved species like Colchica, but straight Hedera helix, this is all Hedera helix, all 3 pictures. And you can see how different it is. So the new foliage on the right is all this luscious, limey, sort of golden green. On the very left-hand photo, that was clipped a little while ago by one of my neighbours. So it's a little bit darker green. They're both juvenile, the photos left and right, the juvenile foliage, young foliage. In the middle, it's a Hedera helix just growing up a dead tree. It didn't kill the tree. They don't. That isn't how it works, but
let's just get that straight.
Let's just get that straight. So this, just listen to me, it didn't kill the tree. It's got mature foliage on. When they mature, they flower and berry, and then they're massively important as part of our ecosystem for pollinators. Really good for early pollinators because they've already flowered and finished. I have got somewhere. Oh, hang on. So that's already flowered. We're
fantastic.
Too late. Yeah.
Fantastic.
But we're probably about 3 weeks too late, and it will be setting berry now. And those berries are important as well for wildlife. Yeah. But you can get all of these different types of foliage off the same plant. So you've got that typical ivy. This has been cut. So this is the juvenile foliage, and it will just cling to the walls. And this is where it's been let go a bit, starting to become mature. And that's your mature foliage. It's quite a different shape. You lose that sort of typical ivy pointiness, and it becomes much more rounded. And you get all of these different colour greens literally on one plant. And actually, if you've got an area, or on the left where that ivy, that's a really ugly fence that it's covering. It's fabulous.
the word, one of my favourite words is arborescent. So it grows into its tree form.
Yes.
And it flowers when it changes, when it gets to a certain height. Is that right? As it becomes mature.
As it grows up to the light, it triggers that maturity, and because that one growing up the tree has never been clipped, which removes the hormones that will let it mature. So similar, it's the same thing with eucalyptus. If you ever see a eucalyptus with two different types of leaf on, there's mature leaves and juvenile leaves, foliage, and they're quite different. So yeah, I think it's just
and so plants want to reproduce. So what it wants to do is it wants to grow to maturity to produce flowers and berries. That's what it wants to do. So it's a great plant. I love it. This idea of clothing. Say that again.
Much maligned, but actually, and great for shady. But if you've got dense shade and want a bit of ground cover, Hedera helix.
So you can have climbers that are doing their clothing walls, clothing structures, softening edges, but you can also use it as very successful ground cover. So you have all that, and it eventually you will want to climb up, find something to climb up, and then flower. But you can let it cover the ground and then just keep it away from the main shrub so it doesn't smother them.
Yeah, and
it's
very
effective ground cover.
Yeah.
And I did look for some Gloada moringa and all sorts of lovely varieties, but actually nearly all the varieties are all coming out at the moment. They're all green before they turn into their variegated.
Yeah, I looked at Dentata variegata that were, and it's
they weren't good enough examples.
Yeah, later we will get to that later.
Yeah,
but again, fabulous for wildlife.
Brilliant. Yeah. So, I'm gonna go first.
Go on then. Your turn.
My turn. So in East Dulwich, looking in somebody's front garden, and there was a choisya, and I was chuckling about how many flowers are on the choisya tenata Aztec pearl, because I know you hate them. And then just peeking around the side of it was this Clematis, which I'd never seen before. It was just a couple of flowers, just scrambling. But I thought actually quite elegant. I'm not into double flowers, but I just thought it was really understated, quite elegant and interesting. I thought I've got to look that up. So
it's got it's green and white, isn't it? It's not a blousy colour with the double form. I think that's.
I was quite intrigued by it, and it was obviously from somebody who is enjoying experimenting with plants, because I could see in the rest of the garden, tiny front garden, but quite a lot of interesting things going on in there.
Yeah, and actually you can do some great things with white and cream flowers. You can create some beautiful looks without using much colour.
Yes,
can't you?
And then it becomes about leaf texture and shape. And actually, a big shout out to my mate Catherine, who's very good at organising her white flowers and flower beds. You know, she's good. She's also a florist, so she's used to mixing those colours very subtly and very well with green, lime greens as well.
The one on the left is Clematis acropolis, which is out of my garden, and as this is one of the first flowers that came out, and it's starting to fade the colour now, whereas that picture is one of the new ones. But it has got this quite delicate stripe down the centre. And
that bit's really fascinating.
Isn't that fabulous? So when they get too high for you to see, you can see this underside as well. So you get some quite different views of the plant. And this, I've had this in my garden for 2 years, that's all. And last year it flowered from May to November.
Wow, that's good flower power.
Stunningly reliable.
Yeah.
So obviously Clematis come in a wide variety of groups. You've got the early ones, which Montanas, which are sort of going over now. We haven't really looked at them. evergreen. But so these varieties, these large flowered varieties, again, they can be split into groups, but generally they're ones that you would prune quite hard in February and March, down to just 4 to 6 buds.
Yeah.
So and then they put on a huge amount of growth each year, 2 or 3 meters, can't they? More than that, some of them.
I'm quite looking forward to capturing all the seasonality through clematis and roses as we keep walking through the year, because like you say, we've missed the flower of the Clematis armandii, lovely green glossy leaves but no flowers to take photographs at the moment, and also that amazing scent, early stuff. Clematis montana just just absolutely smothers things. So yeah, we'll just have to catch up with that one.
Yeah, definitely. But if you want some early flower, like quite blousy flower as well, and clematis come in all shapes and sizes. There's the large flowered hybrids, these deciduous ones. Literally decide what colour you want.
Yeah.
And there will be one for...
And look through a catalogue.
Yeah.
Yeah. Immerse yourself. Yeah.
Definitely.
Lovely stuff. So next on the list is Solanum, crispum, Glasnevin. Now I just want to talk about packets of crisps now, because I'm just looking at my list here, my RHS list, and it's the potato tree, because Solanum is the potato family. And then I just thought, crisps. There you go.
Potato crisps. Why it's called crispum? Because you
crisp
can make
Glasnevin. So it's a glass. That's my take on that.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. That would be maybe a sort of cheese and onion colour, would it? I think.
I don't know. I've planted a lot of a few of these in clients' gardens, and they get quite big. They're not ones that I've let them go a bit. I've let them be quite open and lax, so they're not really tight to the wall. So things like the Hydrangea petiolaris can be nice and quite flat.
Yeah, these are definitely better for that flopping over wall. And actually, interestingly, I could see on the left-hand side, you can see there's a lot of foliage sticking up from the wall, can't you?
Yeah.
That's all the new foliage. So they've obviously pruned it, their side. I would bet they've got not much flower their side, and it's all flopped over the wall. Yeah. It can be a bit woody. It can become a bit woody. It's not a plant, I think, that you would definitely, you want in a container or something like that. It's definitely one for back of the border, just tumbling over, isn't it? And you can clearly see that it's in the potato family when you look at the flowers. Possibly only if you grow potatoes, though.
Yes, if you like that kind of thing.
It might not be very obvious at all.
It needs quite a lot of space, this. And there's a white one called Solanum album, that's not as tough. Even I've had it's got a bit knocked back up here a bit, actually. But really
right. And can you see?
Oh.
Yeah.
That's the blue or what? That's the white one. I can't really tell from
No, it's the blue one, but I think my camera is a bit rubbish or something.
It's quite light, isn't it?
Because that's actually from that plant, but it is much more purple than that. I think it's just the light in here. But the central sort of all the stamens, it's just such bright yellow. The way they stick out, and there's actually a lot of insects on this.
I mean, it's interesting. It's not noted as one for pollinators, but that's my experience of it as well. Is that it does have quite a lot of bees and hoverflies on it.
Yeah.
So what's next? Oh, near the end. So again,
because
Wisteria is still top of the pops, I would say, in London. Really, really scented those warm nights. Just round the corner from me, there's this white wisteria that I always talk about in my lectures because they never prune it, and they still haven't pruned it. So, so for 15 years it hasn't, and it's like literally blocking out all the windows at the top. And I always find it quite interesting, this kind of white on cream effect. You know,
I like it. Is it?
yeah,
If you were designing, would you not use that one?
yeah, sometimes I think there's this white on cream thing. I mean, I need to, discuss this with Catherine. Sometimes it can be a bit dirty net curtains, like what's that, Erica arborea? The tree
Oh yeah.
fir, which is, it just looks like dirty net curtains. But actually, that's interesting. I can't wait to see if anyone does ever prune that. That'll be great. And
It
then
would take some doing now, wouldn't
that
it?
will, yeah. And then this one here, this photograph with the little fairy lights. That was taken at about 8 o'clock, 8:15 at night. And I just thought, oh, it's really, really pretty. Still looking really good. And then I did march over to the other side of Dulwich to have a look at these really long racemes on this Wisteria.
Yeah, so the ones with the longest racemes are Wisteria floribunda, which is the Japanese Wisteria. Yep. So they're the ones that, you get sort of just huge racemes of flower on. And they always twine clockwise. Am I doing clockwise there?
Clockwise.
And Wisteria sinensis is Chinese wisteria, and that goes anti-clockwise. But that also tends to flower before the leaf comes out. So I would guess that these are Wisteria floribunda because they're flowering with full leaf. The ones that flower earlier are usually sinensis. Yeah. But you need to look quite closely to tell the difference.
Yes, because I just think, if I was to be honest, I don't know my Wisteria sinensis from my floribunda. I mean, I'm just kind of saying Wisteria, and when I'm walking around now, I'm keying my eye in a bit more. I'm just thinking, oh gosh, that's lovely. Oh, it's really, really scented. There's a lovely pub down the road called the Clock House, and it's phenomenal. Like, the scent is amazing. So
and it's not something we normally associate with scent, is it, Wisteria?
No, I didn't, and it is. It's it'd be a good bubble bath flavour scent.
Okay. So
that's us, really.
Yes, we've tried to keep it a bit shorter this week because we've been told off for rambling. Obviously, we've still rambled.
Yeah, it's been quite good.
There's nothing we can do about that. No. But we're going to be looking at probably either ground cover or hedges, something that's a bit seasonal hedges maybe next week.
Yes, actually, the hedges, we've got quite a lot. I've been looking, and those Fagus sylvatica long cigar-shaped buds are unravelling. Yeah. They're pretty much all out now, so they're fully clothed.
Yeah, and we'll be looking at some different ideas for hedging and formal hedging and informal hedging. What do you actually want it to do?
And high hedges and low hedges as well, because I found, there's a mixture of like hedges for enclosure, and then there's hedges just for
edging and
edging.
Yeah. So hope you've enjoyed it. Have we got another slide? Have I just?
Yeah, no, that's just us. That's what we do.
So if you are interested in having a sort of virtual tour of your own garden, or anything like that, where you're struggling with plant identification and want a bit of help and advice, just get in contact with us. And we obviously can only do things virtually at the moment, but we've got the hang of this Zoom thing. Possibly. So hopefully we'll see you next week as well.
See you then.